Adobe just made some incredible updates to Photoshop, including new adjustment layer types, which for the first time allow us to make Camera Raw adjustments natively in Photoshop without requiring the Camera Raw filter. In this video, we'll explore what these new adjustments are, how you can get the most out of them, and why this is all such a big deal. First up, you'll need to be working with the beta version of Photoshop. The regular version does not yet have this, but once you're updated, all you need to do is go down to create a new adjustment layer. And at the top of the list, you'll see these three new adjustments for grain, clarity and dehaze, color and vibrance. And you just pick one you want to create. If I go click on color and vibrance, you see it creates a new layer, and it has sliders that are very familiar from working with the Camera Raw filter. Just they're now natively available in Photoshop, and I can just start tweaking them. And this name kind of undersells it because color and vibrance also includes temperature and tint. So this is a great set of adjustments, and you start tweaking this however you might want for your image. You get the exact same results you'd have in Camera Raw. I'm going to delete this and instead walk through an edit that I've already done to kind of explain the overall benefits of this new workflow. So in this image, the very bottom layer here, I've got a raw smart object. I went ahead and edited it to give myself the best base version of this image, and I pushed it as far as I could, leaving me at a place where the next logical thing is to create more of a glow to the sun and warmth for the sunlit areas of the image, but without causing unwanted problems elsewhere in the image. For example, this tower, by the time I start warming up the sky, got oversaturated blue, didn't look quite right. There were just some things that I couldn't quite do, and relying on like local masks in the Camera Raw filter doesn't quite work here. Aside from the fact that I don't have the precision in the masks I want, I also don't have the local adjustments. For example, one of the changes I made was to apply camera calibration in another version of this image. You can't do this through the local masks. So I need a separate layer with a better mask to get the results I want. And that's what I created here on top with this second layer. So I turn this on, you see we get this nice overall warm glow to the sky where I reprocessed the same raw differently and then applied a luminosity mask created with Lumenzia. And you can see this mask is quite complicated. It's not a hard thing to make, but you're not going to make this in Camera Raw. You really do need to be working in Photoshop to create this kind of a mask. But once you do, you can have these beautiful results where you have no halos, seamless blends, and just can really control the look and feel of the light. So far I'm working with workflows you would be familiar if you're in my exposure blending master course or seen some other blending videos. Nothing new about things up to this point. But to get that glow that I want in the sky, now I'd want to start applying Camera Raw in a way that affects both of my blended layers. So to move forward from this point, traditionally, I would have to collapse these into a single layer to start making additional changes because some of this layer is visible, some of this layer is visible, and I want to affect everything equally and correctly. And so what I'd have to do normally would be to select my layers, right click, and choose Convert to Smart Object. Now, when I do that, I have the ability to dive in here, keep editing everything, but there's some trade-offs. First, when I make this change, for my images, which are a 46 megapixel camera like the D850 or the Z7 II, this image will grow by half a gigabyte because of the high resolution capabilities of my sensor. And so, every time I do this right click and convert to smart object, I'm going to add about half a gig to my compressed PSB file size. And I'm happy to do that if I need to, but I'd really prefer not to. So that immediately is one of the benefits of pulling things out into Photoshop is I don't have to do that. And secondly, if I double click this, I can get back to my original layers and edit them, but I'd rather not have to dive in and out of smart objects if I don't have to. And again, I'm going to undo this. Leaving them as separate layers is just a nicer, cleaner workflow. So I can do that now by doing my edits above this with these new adjustment types. So after I created this blend, I made this series of adjustments, which gives me this nice glow to the sun. So you can kind of see from before to after. It's a somewhat subtle, change here, but a critical change to really make things glow and bring that light through the image. And I did that with a series of adjustments. Let's walk through what I've done here. So the very first one here, I've got this clarity and dehaze layer. And if we open it up, you see that what I've done is taken down the clarity, taken down the haze to create this hazy look to the image. And I applied a layer mask. Let's go shift click so we can see it everywhere. So it kind of created this hazy adjustment and then applied it through a local mask. Now for this particular mask, it's just an oval shape and I could have done that in the raw filter. But if I was doing something much more complicated like a luminosity mask, I really would have to be inside of Photoshop to do that. So right off the bat, the ability to do this without a smart object and then apply a more precise mask, those are huge benefits. And then I additionally have this blend if, which I created through Lumenzia as well, to help prevent the light from spilling too much into the deepest shadows. If I go and remove this blend if I go shift click on X in Lumenzia, see that goes away. You can see from before to after here that the native look was too hazy, and I took some of that out with this blend if. So by working through Photoshop, we can create all these precise adjustments here, things like changing the opacity, complex mask, blend if. We can target our adjustments much more carefully than we can do inside the Camera Raw filter. Then next up, I wanted more color here, so I created this color and vibrance adjustment, which you'll see has added some temp, some tint, some vibrance. Well, vibrance is interesting because if we go into the Camera Raw filter, this doesn't exist as a local adjustment. You cannot do this with any sort of local targeting in the Camera Raw filter. So that's another huge benefit, is we've got back something that's never been available to us in the local adjustments in Camera Raw. And then on top of that, the saturation slider here just operates differently from the native HSL adjustment. If we go and create a hue saturation adjustment in Photoshop, these results can be a little bit cartoonish when you push up the saturation, whereas the saturation here in this new color and vibrance layer is just more natural looking. And then I've applied it using a clipping mask where you kind of, hover between the layers. You can option click to do this. So what it's doing is it's inheriting the underlying mask and blend if of the layer below. So I've done both of these things with a single mask and created this overall glow to the sun. And then next, I wanted to separate this spider a little bit from its background. So I created another clarity and dehaze layer, and you can see how it's bringing out some of that texture in the tile below to just create a little bit more lightness and separation. Again, it's got a targeted mask, and the adjustment itself is just boosting clarity. So fairly simple here, but if I were applying this as a filter on here, well, I could create one mask for one filter, but I can't create multiple masks. So let's take a look at that for example. If I go and convert these to a smart object, I can go up to filter, Camera Raw filter. We'll go and add a little bit of clarity. Let's just make it really obvious like this. I now get this mask. I can go and invert it. I can use my brush. I can start brushing down here. And now I've got my clarity down here. But what about the stuff over here? I mean, if I go, well, first of all, I have a different clarity adjustment because here I added clarity, but now I want to remove clarity. Well, if I go and add another Camera Raw filter to this, it will use the same mask. I'll be applying it under the spider. I won't be applying it to the sun where I want it. So then I'd either have to duplicate this layer, which makes the file bigger, or right click, put this all in another smart object and start changing that. It just gets messy really quickly here with the way that things would work on top of a single smart object. Let's undo that versus just the simplicity of doing these as separate layers and just masking them normally and avoiding all that hassle of diving in and out of the smart objects. Then next up, I've added a grain adjustment, and let's zoom in here. You'll be able to see the grain. So from before, I've got a nice clean image here. Zoom in even closer, make sure it's obvious on YouTube. And then I've added grain just to give it a little bit of texture to the image. You can see there's a little bit of a lag when I turn this on or off. It's not quite real time, but looks really nice. And of course, we could do that with a Camera Raw filter, and that's fine. But here we've got some additional control. I've applied it with a blend if so that it goes into the highlights the way that film grain would and not the shadows. If I go down, let's look at our shadow areas here. There's no additional grain being applied, so it stays clean the way you'd want things to be with film. And you could determine the look. You can adjust a blend if like this any way you like. So if you want to have, more of it coming in the shadows, you can dial this back until you get to the level of grain you want in the shadows. But for me, I didn't think that was appropriate. And so I just like having, a lack of grain in that area and allow it to be more in the highlights. And you could dial it in the way you want. But the point is, you're in control. How you want to do blend if, how you want to do masks and opacity and clipping masks. All those Photoshop controls are available without all the extra hassle and file bloat of smart objects. And then on top of that, you're also taking advantage of the fact that when you work with things as a global adjustment, you get better results. So if I go open up color and vibrance, the quality of the saturation that I get from the global version of the filters is better than the local. I've got a link below where I'll show the difference, but what I'm referring to is if we were to go into a camera raw filter and apply saturation globally, we get a better quality result. Same thing for things like temp and tint, or especially the black slider. We just get a better result for certain sliders at the global level than we would if we work with local mask. If we go and create some sort of a local mask here, when you apply this version of saturation, it is inferior. And again, I've got a video I'll link to below so you can see for yourself. I don't want to dive into it too much here, but it is worth mentioning that the quality of what we're getting here is going to be better because these are effectively global adjustments, and then we're applying local masking here rather than the way that local masks work inside the raw filter. And so to drive that point home, let's take a look at how these compare to actual raw adjustments. I'm going to switch to another image. And what I have here is a raw smart object that I've edited, and I want to make some adjustments to it. And I've already gone ahead and done that. So down below it, I've got a camera raw filter. I'm going to turn it on so we can see it. And what I've done is I've used all the various new adjustments we have available to us in a pretty obvious way. This is not the way I would edit the image, but I want you to see that it works exactly the same way. And then above it, I created a duplicate of that same raw smart object. So this starting point here, we turn this on and just look at the layer. We've got the same layer on top. I just duplicate it so it could be in a group. We could easily toggle things on and off. So let's start turning things on here, right? So let's go turn back on the filter and let's build things up above here. So in the top here, I'm going to go and turn on, I've got a color and vibrance adjustment, and I made these exact changes in my raw filter. So +5 on the temp and tint, 25 on the vibrance and saturation. If we dive in here, you'll see that those are the same adjustments I made. And then I made clarity and dehaze adjustments as well as some grain adjustment. And if we go in here, you can see that we've got our clarity and dehaze at +25. We've got our grain at the same +50 and the same default on size and roughness. And the result between these is nearly identical. You can see that the overall look of the image is nearly identical. The difference here is in the grain. And when I toggle this, you'll notice the grain moves around. So let's turn that off for a second. I'll explain that in a moment. Let's go turn off this grain. Let's go turn it off in the raw filters here. So we'll go to the grain, set that down to 0. And now we don't have that grain. You'll see that either version of this image, I've got to turn this off here. These are now exactly the same. So all these adjustments to temp, tint, vibrance, saturation, clarity, and dehaze, whether they're done here on these layers or done via the raw filter, we get the exact same result here. No differences whatsoever. In fact, we could go put this into the difference blend mode. You see it's black because it's exactly the same thing. Let's undo that. So what happened with grain? Well, what you're seeing there is something that has always existed in the raw filter. You probably just weren't aware of it. But when grain gets applied, it's randomized. So let's go turn this on here. Let's go turn our grain back up to 50. And let's go turn on our grain adjustment. And we zoom in here. We see that again, things are moving around. But you can see characteristically, they're basically the same. So what's actually occurring is every time I make a new camera raw filter without duplicating an existing one, it randomizes the grain and it'll look different. So let's see how that would look without this on top here. So let's take our layer here. Let's just go duplicate it. And these should be the same because they inherit the same seed. So if you want the same grain, duplicate your raw filter. Let's instead go and just wipe this out. We'll create it again. So we'll go in here and we're going to go set our grain to 50. So same numbers before. I had clarity and dehaze at 25. I had saturation and vibrance at 25. I had temp and tint at 5. So we're making the exact same adjustment, but this time because it was a new filter, it has a new randomization and its grain is no longer the same. So this is the way that these filters have always worked. If you copy the filter, you copy the random seed for the grain, but if you create a new one, you get new grain. And that's exactly the way that things work now on a global level. With this grain layer, if I select it, hit Command J and duplicate it, I get the exact same pattern of grain. Everything is aligned here. It's just a little stronger because it's applied twice, but there's no shift in the underlying grain pattern. But if I instead, let's go delete this. If I instead go create a new grain adjustment here, and this time I apply the exact same settings, I get a different pattern of grain. It's not reinforcing the grain. It's actually a different pattern. And so that's just the same way these have always worked. So if you try to compare the grain adjustment layer to what you have in the camera raw filter, it's going to look different because grain itself is always randomized. Now to learn more about raw adjustments in Photoshop, click to this next video.